Good evening, Illinois. My name is Rima Kamran, and welcome to Muslims Collabrify. I am the Executive Director of the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition, and we're so excited to have you on tonight. The coalition collaborates and amplifies the voices of all marginalized communities and helps build civic power for diverse Muslim communities in Illinois. We are streaming at CanTV/hotline, and you can watch us at the live interactive show on CanTV 21. I'm honored to be joined by our two amazing guests, Chris Navarez and Enoch Muhammad. And for the next 25 minutes, we're going to be telling our stories and building civic power. The premise of Muslims Collabrify tonight is the urgency of now. Why is it important for the marginalized communities to be building civic power now? Why the urgency? Our communities have been a part of the 400 years of this country. First, as Muslims, we built mosques and community centers so that we could be connected. We focused on building schools to educate our children. We focused on social service organizations so that we could build communities together. We are experts in different fields. We are teachers, Uber drivers, scientists, good neighbors, and we have been serving the community as a whole. And now it's time for us to focus on building civic power. The state of Illinois has one of the largest populations of Muslims in the United States. Over 500,000 estimated Muslims are present in the state. Policies are being made for us, without us, and this is not acceptable. This is the urgency, and this is what we have to build together. Let's take a moment to look at the civic reality. If you can look on screen, advocacy and policy are central to this work. Research reveals that residents who engage with their local elected officials are more likely to vote, complete the census, and run for office and be civically engaged. But the graph that you see tells us a different story. We are at the point where international human rights crises are impacting our communities. We have the Syrian refugee crisis, we have the Kashmir human rights violations, the Uyghur crises. We are dealing with criminal justice reform and immigration reform in our country as a whole. You are watching Muslims Collabrify on CanTV 21. Give us a call and join the conversation. And I'm going to bring in our wonderful guest tonight. The discussion topic today is the urgency of now. My guest is Chris Navarez. Chris, you're a college senior, you're an involved member of our community. You've shared your immigration story with us. What is the urgency? Why is civic power important right now?
So, I'm very lucky for my parents to have brought me to this country when I was younger and to be able to have an education and be a leader within my community. And so I think that it's now my job, the same as my generation, to take all the hard work that our parents have put in, our grandparents having immigrated to this country, and then keeping the ball rolling by building ourselves as leaders and also setting an example to build future leaders as well, because voting is important and leading in organizations and being leaders in our classroom is very important, but we need to make sure that we continue all the effort that's been started to make sure that we have a voice at every table and that we're representing every sector of the population.
Enoch Muhammad runs Hip Hop Detox, an organization focused on empowering minds and transforming the behavior of youth. Enoch, with the community that you serve, the youth that you work with, what is the urgency that you see?
Well, considering that those who went through the transatlantic slave trade, some of the first ones that came to this hemisphere were Muslims. So we're talking about between 400 and 464 years of history where we have people who not only have participated on every level of the advancement for this country, but we were very substantive in what happened and what is happening in the state of Illinois as well as in Chicago. So I think that with young people in particular, they need to not only understand their value, but understand how to actually activate their value. So then 20, 30 years from now, when they have children, when they're dealing with property taxes, when they're dealing with education, economics, etc., they would be in a better position than we today.
We've been talking about what are the issues that we are facing as a community. We've talked about the international issues that affect us locally. We've talked about criminal justice reform. With the college population, what is the issue that is at the forefront of your peers? Chris?
I would say for students, one of the bigger things is student loans and also just access to education as a whole. And so I think that what's important is being civically engaged means having a say when all of these things are decided and being able to help shape a lot of the policies that affect costs for tuition, also just like housing, and everything that goes along with that.
Enoch, with the young folks that you're working with, these are young men who have many challenges. What are the issues that are at the forefront of the population that you're working with the communities that you're involved with, and just with generally the neighborhoods that you deal with?
Well, primarily, you're dealing with trauma, of course, which is an unfortunate reality, but we're dealing with trauma on all kinds of levels. The need for not only jobs, but opportunities that lend itself for real advancement, so that you're not put in a position of having gainful employment for only 4 to 6 weeks in the summer, and then once that's over with, now you're still in the same position of not having real employment or real opportunities. So it's a lot of variety when it comes to the different issues, whether you're talking about homelessness. There are a lot of Muslim, well, I don't say a lot, but a lot of youth, period, that are homeless, and so that affects our community along with everyone else. So I think that with some of these things that are happening, we're in a position to say, hey, there's some avenues by which you can activate your power. And that's why we talk about supporting the census, supporting the effort that's made to make sure that we understand why it's important to be counted, and why we do what is called polisense, where we're making sense out of politics, because we understand that politics is a process, and it determines who gets what, when, where, and how. So we have to be of the mindset that if you don't teach that and educate young people, then they won't be able to activate what we say is for the future, because they're not being invested in today.
And this is a great segue into the next part of what I wanted to talk about. We've been talking about the urgency of now. Why is it important for us to build civic power? Why is it important for us as a community to build towards a collective impact as a whole? What are you just alluded to some of the action steps that we can take. How do we turn this urgency into action? Chris, could you add other things that we can be doing as a community, as college students, as young folk, to bring the urgency into an action step?
Right. Actually, with the first part, it's really important only because there is a deadline, which is 2020, right? The census is every 10 years. And so a lot of the steps that I think would be very effective, I mean, growing up, I'm Latino myself, growing up in a Latino household, in 2010, as a young child, I remember all of the techniques that were used to educate the Latino population about the importance of like 2010 census. And I think a lot of those steps could be applied to all the communities that are marginalized, right? So we're talking classes at local libraries, at schools, working with, for example, the coalition we have census representatives that work for the Bureau, and having them come out to events and helping educate the leaders in our community that can then educate the people that living in the community, right? Not any one specific thing will work in every community, and so our job is to help educate the leaders that then can forward that information to their neighbors, to their friends, to their coworkers. And so, again, there's no real perfect formula, but it's first us as leaders asking the questions, finding out the answers, and then being able to relay that effectively to all of those that we live with in our community.
Right, and I think you bring up a really great point about the census. We want to make sure that our community as a whole is looking at the census as one of the key ways that we can be building civic power. We're talking about making sure that we count, making sure that communities as a whole understand that 2019 and 2020 are going to be key years for us to build together. This is why an organization like the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition is important. We want to make sure that you keep in touch with us. Go to our website and sign up to get our action steps. We can send you more information, as well as pick up the phone. And the first thing that you should be doing tomorrow morning is calling your local representative. Talk to them, tell them what you feel are the issues in your community, and make sure that they hear you and that you are heard. We've been talking about the census. We have a lot of great information available on our website, talking about, and there's Chris up there, talking about him as an immigrant Latino Muslim, and talking about how we have to make sure that we are counted in the census, and that we are American and we count in America. So this is really important, small steps that we can take. And of course, we've been talking about the census, but keeping that momentum alive and working towards the election in 2020. Oh, wow, we have a caller.
First
Good
caller.
evening, caller. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes, first of all, I'm just so happy to see this show. It's just about time that I'm able to see this discussion on TV. It's just given me a new light on the Muslim community in Illinois. My question is, how can non-Muslims as allies support the Muslim community? I mean, there's such a wealth of exports, so please let me know.
Thank you so much, caller. The question was, how can non-Muslims as well as other marginalized communities help be allies together? I think one of the key things here for us to remember is we are in this together. Everyone counts, every single person, from a newborn baby all the way to someone who may be in the last stages of their life counts. I think a part of this is building civic power together. We are talking about collective impact, and we can only have collective impact if we as communities focus on making sure that we are educating our communities, working together, and ensuring that after we've educated them, that we turn out to make sure that we are collectively making a difference. Thank you so much, caller. One of the key things I did want to talk about is what are ways that your communities are focusing, or the neighborhoods that you're in, the organizations that you're a part of, what has been some of the work that you've been doing around getting out the vote and getting census ready? Enoch, do you want to speak to that? I know you've talked about the PolySense program.
Right.
Has that been an effective way of getting folks excited about being engaged?
Well, it's been effective. We've done it probably over the last maybe 3 elections. And so one of the things that's always necessary is to be able to educate in such a way where you activate not only the desire, because sometimes you may have youth that may not at the time be able to vote, but only 2, 3, 4 years later they will be. So you have to plant certain seeds to make sure that they are prepared and they have that desire. But those who are at that age, they have to get not only inspired, but they have to be informed in such a way as to encourage them to look. You may not have all the answers at the moment, but guess what? You're on the road. So these are some of the things that you can do to get more information so you can feel empowered to take action. Because a lot of times, a lot of young people, they don't like politics because of the confusion. So you have to be able to distill it and make it not only understandable, but make them to know that, look, this is something that you deal with every day. You may not call it politics, but you deal with it every day and it affects you. So it's good for you to understand the politics so that you won't fall for the politrick.
Oh, I like that. Know the politics so you won't fall for the politrick. That's a great,
Gotta
that's
get
a
some
great way to
policy.
put it out.
You
That's
gotta
right.
have a little policy, because if you don't, you fall for it.
Chris, there's a lot of things in the media about talking about young folk are just really too relaxed about this. There's a lot of apathy. What do you say to that as someone who is currently, a senior? You're with your peers. I think you're very involved with the many with the organizations that you work with. What would you say to that?
I think it's a very common sentiment. Like Enoch was talking about, a lot of times some of the youth think, oh, I'm not even young enough to vote,
Right.
Or my vote won't really count. And so it's important to realize that our vote does count and our voice does matter. And a lot of times the youth, we're very lucky to be in the position where we are the connection between our family and the outside world, right? A lot of times the youth are the ones in the household that dominate or that are best able to understand and speak English, for example.
Right.
And so we're the ones that are able to consume media and translate that for our family, so it's something so that they're able to understand the importance of the census, the importance of voting. And so a lot of times it's going to be the youth that we're going to be the ones mobilizing our families and making sure that they fill out the census, for example. I mean, I'll go back again to the 2010 census. My older sister and I, both still under 18, unable to vote, were the two that sat our parents down, helped them translate. And because we were kind of hit with so many ads, and at school we were told about the importance of the census, we were the ones that really mobilized our parents, right? And so who knows if my parents would have filled it out if my siblings and I weren't the ones that were kind of pushing them to. And so again, I think that as youth, we have that advantage of being able to consume all this media and being able to translate in a way that's digestible to our families.
Wonderful. I want to share with you a wonderful message from Chicago Alderman David Moore. Let's go to that right now.
When you take that heartbeat and you got the balance between rhythm and discipline, then you can change the beat up, for example.
Things that I see here is census equals civic power. When you engage with one another, you're going to get together, talk with another, and get with your communities to make sure that you're counted. Because if you're not counted, then you're disengaged. And so it's very important that you engage yourselves as the youth. And guess who people are opening the door. I'm the alderman in this ward. I'll be honest with you. People are opening their door quicker for you than they would for me. Because they're so excited about youth being engaged.
If you don't get counted, guess what? You're invisible. If we don't communicate with each other, guess what? We're invisible. And that means we don't get the necessary dollars that we need in order to be successful.
And let me tell you that I'm emboldened every day when I meet young people, because you're not just the present, you literally are our gift to our country right now.
That was a great clip from our Student Sunshine and Census kickoff event that we had this last month. A great thank you to Hip Hop Detox. You saw those wonderful young men who were able to bring that PolySense presentation to our census kickoff, specifically planned by students for students. We are again talking today about the urgency of now. One of the key things I want you, viewer, to go away from this with is specifically making sure that you stay engaged. Check out our website at www.illinoismuslimciviccoalition.org. We want to make sure that you know about all the wonderful things that are happening in our community, as well as making sure that you are aware of what are the updates that are coming up. Here's some great events that are coming. The American Medina is an excellent event. This exhibition draws from over 100 interviews conducted with Muslim Chicagoans sharing their stories of faith, identity, and personal journeys. You can check it out at www.chicagohistory.org/Muslim Chicago. The exhibit is open to the public November 21st. And since we've been speaking about stories, also check out our Hidden Histories of South Asian Chicago, a fundraiser to benefit the South Asian American Digital Archive, SADA. That's their gala on November 21st at the Newberry Library. You can learn more about the secret and hidden histories of South Asians in Chicago. And as we were talking with our guests today, it's about sharing stories, sharing our community challenges, as well as making sure that we as a community learn to build together. I want to thank our guest tonight, Enoch Muhammad from Hip Hop Detox, our guest Chris Navarez, our university senior. Just give out your website. Where can folks find out more about Hip Hop Detox? They can check out our website, but please let us know where they can learn more about the amazing programs that you offer.
You can go to Instagram or Facebook or just Google Hip Hop Detox. That's HIPHOPDETOXX. You can get in contact with us. Our direct line is 773 area code 563-4315. That's 773-563-4315. 4315 Hip Hop Detox.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any closing words of advice as we get ready to sign off for our communities?
Just remember that politics is a process. It determines who gets what, when, where, and how. And we have to be about the reality of understanding that the more we educate ourselves about it, the more we'll understand what we can do, how we can do it, and how we can make change. So that's why we always say, look, if you want to stop the politics, you got to get some sense. And if you get a little sense, then you'll be able to empower yourself, your family, your neighborhood, your community, your people, and we can make sustainable change, not just something for the moment.
Yeah, and I would say that for all the youth, as we're planning what we're majoring in, what we're going to do as a job, how many kids we have, where we want to live, I think it's very important to think about setting up the next 10 years. And in order to do that, we have to build we have to do civic engagement and make sure that we're building leaders, and so that we are able to help others in our communities and make sure that all the marginalized communities have a seat at the table and that we're all able to have a say in all the policy shaping.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition that I am so blessed to serve as the executive director is a partnership of hundreds of activists, influencers, and organizations. Our mission is to collaborate and amplify the social and civic efforts of our communities towards building a strong and equitable America. Learn more about us at www.illinoismuslimciviccoalition.org. We have only scratched the surface, and we have so much more to talk about and discuss. If you need more information or would like to join us on our show to collaborate and amplify the work that you are doing, reach out to us via our website or email us at info@illmuslimciviccoalition.org. Join us next week, October 28th at 7:30 p.m. as we start to talk about the Muslim American story. And you will be joined by your host, Dilara Saeed, for a wonderful program. And this is Rima Kamran, thanking again our wonderful guests, Enoch Muhammad and Chris Navarez, signing off. In community, continue to collaborate, amplify, and build civic power. Thank you and have a great evening.